I'm going to bring in the show one of your guys. And you
the guy.
Were one of his guys. He is the guy in your life as far as a mentor that you had for 5 years down at FSU. He's joining us now, Bobby Bowden, the legendary coach who really brought Florida State football back in 1975 out of the doldrums, shall we say? Is that accurate enough to say? Is that accurate? Can I say that, Chris?
Put Florida State on the map, football-wise.
He
definitely.
Certainly did. And joining us now is the coach himself, Bobby Bowden, with Dan Moriarty, Chris Ricks, and you here on Fox Sports Radio. Coach, hello this Sunday. How are you, sir?
And how y'all doing, man?
You know, we're doing great. The first question for you seems to be pretty obvious because I know you're an honest man. The first weekend of college football, with not being walking on the sidelines, did you put a TV on? Can you watch yet? Or do you not want to watch right away?
Yeah, I watched it. I watched all the games yesterday. It's kind of, when I was coaching, I always enjoyed open weekends because I could sit and watch football games all day long, And so this weekend, of course, I was able to do it with no responsibility, and I really enjoyed it.
Now, Coach, I appreciate your honesty, and we always know you're positive. You've had such an influence on me. That's why I try to be positive and optimistic with things. But I'll admit, watching yesterday, seeing the team come out, first of all, I don't know where all the fans were. I think they must have been home like you and me were watching the game. But it was different not seeing you on those sidelines, and I know it was for millions and millions of Florida State fans. What was Ann's reaction? I'm sure Ann was watching the game with you and your wife, for those listening across Fox Sports Radio National, and what was it between you and her yesterday, watching that team come out and knowing that you weren't on the sidelines and she wasn't up in that press box like she was for 30+ years?
Yes, it's really a change. But Ann is kind of like me, Chris. She was about ready for it to end. Really, the whole issue was over 1 year.
Yeah.
I had stated I wanted one more year, and you would think I'd have wanted 20 or something, and so I didn't get it, and so we've accepted that. And I don't know if she even watched the play yesterday. We had Robin, my daughter Robin was here, my daughter Ginger was here, several of the grandchildren around, and she spent all day long fooling around with them. And so I sat there and watched it because I wanted to see every play because, Chris, they're still my boys,
Yep.
And you want to see them succeed, and I enjoyed watching them.
Well, Coach, obviously we've had a lot of conversations within the past 12 months and more specifically in this offseason just about the whole process and how everything went down. But just talking X and O's wise, what did you think of the boys yesterday watching the game? What did you think of the 2010 edition of the Seminoles?
I couldn't see a thing to criticize. I didn't see. I mean, the kicking was excellent. The defense was excellent. The offense was excellent. They just, sometimes that first ball game can be a comedy of errors. I don't know if you saw the Ole Miss Jacksonville State game.
Oh yeah,
a one AA team beat a 1A team at their place. That's not something that happens. Occasionally it does, and so it can happen to anybody. And if you remember, the first game sometimes is what I call a comedy of errors. You go out there to play, you're not sure how they're going to perform. This kid's not used to playing with this guy, and this guy's not used to playing with that guy, and sometimes it's just the one that can make the fewest mistake wins if game's even.
Well, Coach, of course I'm very familiar with that because you're talking about first games. My senior year, we opened up with Miami on Labor Day, so I know that first game can definitely be rough. And speaking of Miami, I love the first thing you mentioned about the game yesterday was the kicking game was sharp. That was the first thing I noticed, too, because that's something we could have used at times during our years there.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. The kicking game does look solid. They got a great kickoff man, and they got an excellent punter. I don't. Did they punt yesterday? I don't even remember. I fell asleep a couple of times. I have to admit that. But as far as I don't remember seeing them punt. I started if they got a weakness, it's they don't punt.
Yeah, Bobby Bowden, Coach Bowden, joining us here on Fox Sports Radio with Dan Moriarty and Chris Ricks. Yesterday, the first time he was not on the sideline coaching this team since September 11th, 1976, when he began taking over the Seminoles. But, Coach, I want to ask you this. As far as looking back at your career, both as a coach and as a player, Florida State yesterday played Samford. I'm going through old books here, and I'm saying, wait a minute, Coach Bowden was a quarterback at Sanford back in 1950.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
when you watch that kind of game and you reflect on just who you are in the world of football, not the accolades, but the man you are, Coach, discuss that journey, please.
Well, Sanford University, when I was in school, was called Howard College. They grew into a university. They got a law school and nursing school and engineering. And so they became a university. They didn't want to name it Howard University because there's a Howard University in Washington. So they changed the name to Sanford University, named after Frank Sanford, who donated millions and millions of dollars to the school. So anyway, yes, that was my alma mater. It was also Jimbo Fisher's alma mater. That's where he played, and that's where he graduated from. So there was a lot of ties there. And of course, I had told Jimbo when I left. I said, "Now, Jimbo, I'm not going to be around for at least a year. I'm leaving. I'm not going to be around watching and people asking me what would I have done and what should you have done and why didn't you do like he did and all that. I've been through that before, and I've seen it happen to others." And so, but anyway, he knows I'm there if he ever needs me. But I thought they played a near perfect ball game. Now, what does that mean? Nothing. Because they wasn't playing Florida. They wasn't playing Miami.
Oklahoma next week.
Oklahoma. That's a little bit different. But the thing is, everything they did do checked out positive.
Hey, Coach, last thing, because the book is now on the shelves, Called to Coach, Reflections on Life, Faith, and Football. If you could, for our audience, in a couple of sentences, in a paragraph, whatever you want, break down that book and what it was like to write a book like this at this stage in your life.
Well, Mark Schleybaugh wrote the book. He worked for ESPN. He writes for ESPN, and he on ESPN programs. And he wanted to write the book. And I said, well, since my career is over, it's a good time to write one. So we wrote it on, like I say, Call to Coach, which I've always felt like we're all called into certain professions.
Oh, yeah.
That preachers ain't the only people called. We're all called. Thank goodness we're all not called into the same thing. And so I tried to give my thinking on that, why I felt that way, and how I talked to my boys during the years and tried to share my beliefs with them, because I wanted them to get a taste of it, because so many of them come to college and never heard of it,
Well, one of them, Coach, who's came to college is sitting next to me right now, and I have a funny feeling after he reads your book, he may write his own book.
Who you talking about, Chris?
I certainly am.
Well, he's like anybody that's played it. You can always write a book, man. There's a lot of experiences occur that will help you in life.
Coach Bowden, as always, it's a pleasure to hear your voice. Congratulations on an illustrious career. Congrats on retirement. Congrats on the book, and you and the wife enjoying your time.
Well, thank you very much, and we're mighty proud of Chris too. Y'all have a good time here.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Coach. Love you.
Okay, man. Bye.